Hello guys and welcome back to this new video in which I'm going to solve this particular question cache of problem set 1 of the course CS50. So without wasting our time, let's directly hop onto this question. Now if some of y'all have already read the question, the user will give us an integer and we have this four types of coins: a quarter, dime, nickel and a penny. If the person have given the input of 25, we will print 1. Why? Because only one quarter is required and therefore 1 is printed. Similarly, if the user gives us an input of 70, 4 is printed. Why? Because 25 times 2 is 50 and 10 times 2 is 20 and 50 plus 20 is 70, which is required by the user, and 2 plus 2 is 4, therefore 4 is printed. Now in a file called cache.c in a folder called cache. In order to create a folder, we usually write mkdir, which stands for make directory if I'm not wrong, and the name of the folder, which is cache. In order to get inside this folder, we write cd and the name of the folder, which is cache. Now as you can see, we are inside this folder, and in order to create a new file named cache.c, we will write code cache.c. And as you can see, a new file of cache.c have been created, and then we'll write include standardio.h int main void, and that's it. Now if you give the thought about how to solve this question, we will first calculate the number of quarters, then the number of dimes, then the number of nickels, and then the number of pennies. Now first we have to take an input, and I would like to specify on this particular line, reprompt the user again and again as needed if their input is not greater than or equal to 0, or if their input isn't an int at all. Basically we have to ask the user about change ode again and again until he has given an input which is an integer and greater than equal to 0. So if the user have given an input which is a string or a integer which is less than 0, we have to reprompt the user again and again. Now for that we will use a do while loop, but first let's initialize a variable int and a semicolon, and now we will write do and is equal to. In order to get a int from the user, we use this function get int. In order to use this function, we will write include CS50.h, and now we can use this particular function get int, and then we'll write brackets, change colon space and a semicolon, and then we'll write while n is less than 0. Why have I written this particular statement? Because if the user have given an input which is a string or an integer which is less than 0, we have to reprompt the user about this. So this will only stop once the user have given an input which is an integer and greater than equal to 0. Now we are done with this portion of taking an input and reprompt the user again and again this particular part of the question which was needed. Now we will first initialize a variable ints which will store the number of coins, and first we'll calculate the number of quarters, the number of dimes, the number of nickels, and then the number of pennies. So we will write int, let's give it a name as a for quarters, calculate quarters, and we'll give it the input of n, then a semicolon, then we will write s is equal to s plus A because A will hold the number of quarters and we have to add this value in S, which is storing the number of coins. And then we will write N is equal to N minus 25 times A and a semicolon. We are writing this particular statement N is equal to N minus 25 times A because we are adding A in our S, and since we have already given the number of coins, we have to remove that value from this variable N. Therefore, we are writing this particular statement. After that, we can just copy this because we just have to change the name of the variables. Let me just correct this, and then we will change the name of the variables. Let this be B, this be times, this will be B, and this will be 10 times B. Why? Because the value of a dime is 10. Let this be nickels, let this be C, and this will be 5 times C because the value of a nickel is 5. Now if you'll give the thought, once this statements have been executed, the variable n will store a value which is less than 5, and we also have to return that value as pennies. So we will write int count is equal to n plus s. As I mentioned before, n will store a value which is less than 5, and we also have to return that. Therefore, I have taken a variable as count and have added the two value n plus s, and now count is storing our total number of coins. The next thing we would do is make functions. Now I forgot to mention this. What are this calculate quarters, calculate dimes, calculate nickels? Basically these are functions which I am going to define them now. So we will write int calculate quarters. Now since we have given this input of n, we will accept it and we'll write int maybe cents. After that we will write int, let me call a variable known as quarters, which will store the number of quarters equal to 0, a semicolon, and then we'll use a while loop. Why am I using this? I'll explain you in a moment once I'm done with this particular function. We will increment the value of quarters by 1, and we also have to remove the value, and once this loop has it work, we will return quarters. Now let's walk through this piece of line which I've written. Let's assume the value of cents is 100. Now 100 is greater than equal to 25, therefore it will come inside of this loop. The value of quarters will become 1, the value of cents will become 75. It will again go back here to the line 34, and 75 is greater than equal to 25, the value of quarter will become 2, the value of cents will become 50. 50 is greater than equal to 25, therefore it will go through this loop. Quarters value will become 3, cents value will become 25. Now for the last time it will again go through this loop. 25 is greater than equal to 25, quarters value will become 4, and the value of cents will become 0. Now 0 is not greater than equal to 25, therefore it will come out of this loop and it will return quarters. Now from here, line 39, it will go to this particular line, and int a, the variable a will store the number of quarters. Now we'll do the similar thing for others as well. So we'll just copy it and we'll just change the name of some variables. Let me just change the name of the variables as required. This will be dimes. Oh, sorry. This will be dimes. Yeah. This will also be dimes. Now the value of dimes is 10. Therefore, we will write here 10. We will increment the value of dimes. We will decrease it by 10 and then we will return dimes. And we'll just do the same thing for nickels as well. This will be nickels. The value of nickel is 5, therefore this will be 5. The value of nickels will be incremented by 1 and we will return nickels. Now there's a slight mistake in this program. How will the program know that calculate quarters, calculate dimes, calculate nickels exist? And for that we have to copy this line and write it. We'll do the same for dimes and nickels as well. And that's it. We have defined or give this program or the computer a hint that in this program there's something known as calculate dimes, calculate quarters and calculate nickels, so that it does not go blank. What are these calculate quarters, calculate dimes and calculate nickels? And the last thing we will write is printf brackets quotation percentage I. I am writing a percentage I because this variable count is a type of integer. Therefore, I am writing percentage I backslash n and the name of the variable, which is count. And that's it. This will do, and I think I have not done any mistake. So let's run this code and write make cache dot slash cache. Let's write here 25 and it returns the value as 1. Let's try it once again, dot slash cache, and now let's enter a string, maybe hello. You see it reprompts me if we write a, if we write b, if we write c, if we write 0.1, if we write minus 100, it will ask me again. Therefore, if I ask now 20, it gives me 4 and that's what is required. Now I will run this in order to check that everything is right and there's not a mistake in this piece of code. In the meantime, if you all have any question, you can ask me down in the comment section and I'll try my best to answer those. After that, and I'm going to run this particular line, which will not change anything in your code, but it will just make your code more better by adding some spaces here and there. And as you can see, there's not a single mistake in this code and this is totally good to go. And now, as I mentioned before, I'll run this line in my terminal. If you click on apply changes, you will notice any major portion have not changed, but only some minor details have been changed, such as there have been a space in between of variables and operators which was not there earlier. The order has changed because include standard diode dot h was in line 1 and CS50 was in line 2. So this is what style 50 does. It will not change or affect your code in any way. And the last thing which you have to do is write this in your terminal, press enter, and then write yes, and your file has been submitted, and that's it.